Participation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 69 of 2019 will be read for the first time this afternoon, and thereafter there will be resumption of debate on the petition to County Assembly's Procedure Bill, Senate Bills number 22 of 2018. Also in the order of business this afternoon is the County Government Revenue Raising Process Bill, National Assembly Bill number 24 of 2018. There is also a motion by the Chairperson Committee on Delegated Legislation, and the motion is on annulment of the retirement benefits occupation. The business of the day are about to begin. The Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Justin Muturi, has stepped into the chambers ready to oversee business this afternoon. This broadcast is made available to you courtesy of the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. The broadcast is available on Bunge TV as well as KBC Channel 1. My name is Edward Kabas.
In this republic, let your blessings descend upon us assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests are committed to our church. Amen.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages.
Honourable members, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order number 42, I wish to convey to the House a message from His Excellency the President relating to the nomination of persons for appointment to the offices of the Chairperson and members of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. The message, which was received in my office on 25th of October 2019, conveys that in excess of powers conferred by Section 17 of the Act, as amended in 2019, and Section 5 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, the President has nominated the following persons for appointment to the respective offices in National Cohesion and Integration Commission. 1, Reverend Dr. Samuel Kobia, Chairperson. 2, Samuel E. Connor, member. 3, Honorable Engineer Philip O. Okundi, member. 4, Ms. Paris W. Newton, member. 5, Honorable Abdulaziz Ali Farah, member. 6, Dr. Danvers O. Makori, member. 7, Ms. Fatuma S. Tabwara, member. 8, and the last, Honorable Dorcas L. Kedogo, member. In this regard, the President now seeks the approval of the National Assembly on the same nominations. Understanding order number 45-1, which requires, upon receipt of this required to be approved by the House, such nomination shall stand committed to the Departmental Committee of the House for consideration. However, understanding order number particular committee as opposed to a departmental committee. In this regard, I hereby refer the message from His Excellency the President, together with the curriculum vitae and testimonials of the nominees to the Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity for consideration. Paragraph 9 of the first schedule to the National Cohesion and Integration Act, number 12 for 2008, requires the National Assembly to either approve or reject any or all of the nominees to the respective positions within 21 days of the day it next sits. In view of this, the committee should expeditiously notify the nominees and the general public of the time and place for holding the approval hearings in at least 2 dailies of national circulation, inviting any person with representations regarding the process of nomination of the candidates and their suitability for appointment to the offices so nominated to make submissions before the committee. Thereafter, the committee should commence the necessary approval hearings and submit its report to the House by 19th November 2019 to enable the House to consider the nominees within the statutory timelines. I thank you, members. Next order.
Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Stroke 2021, and the medium-term budget from the National Treasury and Planning. 2, the statutory 6 months preference and reservation report from the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority. 3, the report of the Board of the National Government Constituency Development Fund on project proposal approvals, disbursement status, and restrictions imposed on constituency accounts for the first quarter of 2019-2020 financial year for the period 1st of July to 30th September 2019. Number 4, sessional paper number 2 of 2019 on the National Policy on Gender and Development from the State Department of Gender. Number 5, sessional paper number 3 of 2019 on the National Policy for the Eradication of Female Genital Mutilation from the State Department of Gender. Number 6, the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of Mandera North constituency for the year ending 30th June 2018 and the certificate therein. And finally, the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of the Northern Water Service Board for the year that ended 30th June 2018 and the certificate therein.
Of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning on its consideration of the Presidential Memoranda on Finance Bill 2019. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Speaker.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, October 29, 2019. The third report of the Procedure and House Rules Committee on the translation of the National Assembly Standing Orders to Kiswahili. Mr. Speaker, I would hope that the Leader of Majority will be sitting very closely with Ali Mohammed for...
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I'm starting on number 6.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that this House adopts the third report of the Procedure and House Rules Committee on the translation of the National Assembly Standing Orders to Kiswahili, laid on the table of the House on the Tuesday, the 29th October 2019, and approves the Kiswahili version of the National Assembly Standing Orders, and further resolve that the Kiswahili version of the Standing Orders take effect at the commencement of the 4th session of the 12th Parliament.
Leader Majority, what's your point of order?
Speaker, the Deputy Speaker and the Chair of Liaison Committee is tabling the new version of the standing orders in Kiswahili. He should say it in Swahili. Yeah, he should say it in Swahili both when he's tabling and when he's giving notice. You cannot table Swahili matter and you are speaking English. So can he tell us what it means in Swahili? Kama ni kanuni ya sijui ya nini?
For the comfort of the leader of majority, inaitwa kanuni za kudumu za bunge la kitaifa, sio amri ya kusimama like Honorable Sankoki say. This is kanuni za kudumu.
Mheshimiwa Sankoko, lazima ujifunze Kiswahili mufti. Mheshimiwa Kadhuri, I will allow you to, Honorable Kadhuri Murungi, I will allow you to, I will rearrange to allow you to table the documents. Proceed. Honorable Kadhuri Murungi, Chair of Special Funds Committee.
Honorable Speaker, I am begged to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Thursday, October 17, 2019. Reports of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of report number 1, audited financial statements for the Commodities Fund for the year ended 30th June 2016 and 30th June 2017. And report number 2, audited financial statements for the Agricultural Settlement Trustee Fund for the year ended 30th June 2016. Universal Service Fund for the year ended 30th June 2017. And the Water Sector Trust Fund for the year ended 30th June 2017. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed. Are you supposed to give notice of motion?
Yes, I'm in a position.
Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that today's House adopts the report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of audited financial statements for the Commodities Fund for the years ended 30th June 2016, 30th June 2017, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, October 29, 2019. I beg to give the second notice of motion that today's House adopts the report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the audited financial statements for the Agricultural Settlement Trustee Fund for the year ended 30th June 2016, the Universal Service Fund for the year ended 30th June 2017, and the Water Sector Trust Fund for the year ended 30th June 2017, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, October 29, 2019. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Honourable members, before we go to the next order, now that we appear to be slightly more than when we began, if members could take their seats. Honourable members, I have this communication in light of what the Deputy Speaker has just laid on the table. Honourable members, I wish to take this opportunity to welcome you all from the short recess, and it's my hope that the break granted you sufficient time which you needed to re-energize for the third stretch, which is also what you may call the home stretch for the third session. As some of you may be aware, the National Assembly is scheduled to hold the inaugural Parliamentary Forum for committees. This event will take place at the Parliament Gardens on Thursday, 31st December 2019, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Honourable members, as we all know, the bulk of the business considered by the House in plenary is first processed by committees before it is submitted to the House, and committees are therefore very critical organs in the operations of legislatures world over. It is for this reason that the Liaison Committee, chaired by the Deputy Speaker, has organized this forum, which is meant to showcase the committee system of the National Assembly and to demystify the role of committees to the public. Honourable members, during this forum, which will henceforth be held annually, the chairpersons of all committees will make presentations about the mandates of their respective committees, highlighting a few that have had a significant impact on the economy of the country and the lives of Kenyans in general, as well as those that have influenced government policy towards the fulfillment of the Big Four government agenda. In addition to the presentations, the following parliamentary documents shall be launched on that day. 1, the committee chairperson's manual. 2, the committee's performance reports. And 3, the Kiswahili version of the standing orders. This important forum, honourable members, will be graced by the Speaker of the National Assembly of the United Republic of Tanzania, the Right Honourable Job Justino Dugai, as the chief guest, and also presents an opportunity for the launch of the live broadcast of committee proceedings. Honourable members, due to the significance of the event in the calendar of the National Assembly, I will expect the leader of the meeting to consider a petition presented by the Honourable Gladys Bosch-Sholei, MP. Any sittings of other committees scheduled for that day are hereby suspended. Honourable members, this is therefore to inform the House of this important occasion and invite all to participate in the event, which will also be. Question by the member for Magarini, Honourable Michael Thoya Kingi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 453 of 2019 to the Cabinet Secretary, Environment and Forestry. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain the measure put in place by the National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, to ensure that pollution and other health hazards caused by chemical waste and emissions by MS Crystalline Salt Factory at Gongoni salt works in Magarini constituency of Kilifi County, which continues to affect the area residents, are mitigated? Thank you.
Question referring to the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources for the Cabinet Secretary to appear. Next question, 459, by the member for Malava, Honourable Malulu Ijendi. Member is unable. Honourable members, there is a proposal to take you further, just for purposes of familiarization with the system, because several of the documents will be in the machines. Honourable Ijendi, are you able to?
Yes. I arise to ask question number 459 to the Cabinet Secretary for Education. Question 1 in Roman. Why is the Cabinet Secretary yet to establish the Education Standards and Quality Assurance Council as provided for in Section 64(1) of the Basic Education Act 2013, which has led to the current crisis in quality assurance, infrastructure, and management in the education sector, since the said council is charged with the responsibility of ensuring standards and maintenance of quality in the sector. Question 2 in Roman. When will the Cabinet Secretary commence the process of appointing substantive members to the said council as required by the said act? Thank you.
Question referring to the Departmental Committee on Education and Research to prioritize for the appearance of the Cabinet Secretary. Question 460, member for Igembe Central, Honorable Kubai Iringo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me permission to ask you this question, Mr. Speaker. Question number 460 of 2019, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs. 1. What circumstances led to the arrest of one Kenyon Tomobweka, a young man aged about 20 years from Getuamwari Village, Njia Ward, Igembe Central, Meru County, who has been detained in the United Republic of Tanzania since the year 2015. Number 2, what steps has the ministry taken to ensure that this young man, who has been illegally held for over 4 years without any charges being preferred against him, is released? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question referring to the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations to prioritize for the appearance of the Cabinet Secretary. Next question is by the member for Bura, Honorable Ali Wario.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to ask question number 461 of 2019, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the criteria used in the recruitment of prison warders in Tana North Sub-County? 2, could the Cabinet Secretary confirm that the exercise was conducted in a fair and transparent manner? And 3, Mr. Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary explain whether the ministry took into account the interest of all the communities living in the area during the exercise, considering that 4 out of the 6 recruits belong to one community, despite the existence of more than 8 communities in the sub-county? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question referring to the Committee on Administration and National Security. The committee will prioritize for the appearance by the Cabinet Secretary. There is a request also by the Honorable Ali Wario.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 43, I wish to make a statement regarding destructions of homes and displacement of people living along the border of Kitui and Tana River counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on 22nd and 23rd October 2019, the National Police Service, Mr. Speaker, can you protect me from...
Are you making a statement or...
I'm seeking, Mr. Speaker, I'm seeking a statement. I'm seeking opportunity for 0 hour to deliberate on this particular issue, Mr. Speaker.
Very well.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 43, I wish to make a statement regarding destructions of homes and displacement of people living along the border of Kitui and Tana River counties. Mr. Speaker, on 22nd and 23rd October 2019, the National Police Service, in conjunction with the county government of Kitui, raided 3 villages of Inyali, Kiwanja, and Kalalani, inhabited by the pastoralist communities from Tana River County, and demolished homes and schools, and destroyed business premises, including shops. Mr. Speaker, as we speak now, more than 5,000 families have been rendered homeless with no food, no clothing, no water, and all other basic human essential needs. In addition, Mr. Speaker, people from Kalalani Primary, Inyali, and Didade primary schools have nowhere to call school. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution protects all Kenyans from inhuman and degrading treatment. Thus, this act by the National Police Service and the county government of Kitui amounts to a violation of this principle. Finally, Mr. Speaker, as other peoples across the country sit for the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, it is not clear whether the students at Kalalani Primary School will sit for the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, as all have been affected by the said displacement. The affected schools are now staring at a bleak future. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What? Is it on that one? No, Honorable Aluwario, whereas I have looked at your request and yes, it is one that can be debated. I would urge that during the debate, members use moderate language that may not heighten tensions in the affected areas, or indeed that may tend to excite passions negatively in the country. Just one urge for caution. So 6:30 p.m. Honorable Pukosa, what's your point of order?
Honorable Speaker, I was just looking at the question that has been asked by the Honorable Kubai Iringo, which is question number 460/2019, considering that the Vice President of the Republic of Tanzania is our chief case on Thursday. Can your office, Honorable Speaker, look at the way this issue can be handled so that the citizen of the member for Honorable Iringo's constituency can be assisted? Just thinking loudly, Honorable Speaker.
A question. But yes, a question. Did you say that the assistant minister? I would want to know is, because I have this document is the same document that I have in the office. And it is the document dated 24th, the meeting happened on 24th of September, yes. At 10 a.m. in the boardroom on second floor, Protection House. Among the people present was number 4, Honorable Didimas Wekesa Barasa Mukua. That's the meeting of the main committee. And what the minutes indicate is that, and those absent are shown as the Honorable Ngunjiri Wambugu, Ahmed Kolosh, Wafula Wamunyinyi, Makali Mulu, Adoma Ward, and Josephat Kabinga Washira. Those who are absent. And this is what the minute reads. After the chairman and invited the members, the committee deliberated and 1, resolved to establish subcommittees to bring experience and expertise in certain subjects within its mandate and also fast-track transaction of business. Each subcommittee would be reporting to the main committee. The list of the subcommittees as constituted is attached. And that's the one that shows the Honorable Barasa as being a member of the members. Yes, the Honorable Opondo Kaluma, the Honorable Didimas Barasa, the Honorable Ahmed Kolosh, Honorable Geoffrey Kingangi Muturi, the Honorable Joshua Aduma War. Areas to deal with: legislation, reports, questions and answers, statements, petitions, undertake any other role as may be delegated to it by the main committee from time to time. Maybe, the Honorable Barasa, you may not have been aware that that was done. But you say the committee would. And the other committee, subcommittees are also listed, and the areas they are to cover. Now, did this subcommittee meet? And if it met, were there minutes? Because these are the minutes of the main committee. Oh, no, you see, leader majority, you want to weigh into this one? Yeah?
Mr. Speaker, you remember this matter was very hot last Thursday before we went on the recess. And the bone of contention, and Honorable Kaluma cannot run away from it, and he said he will provide evidence that he was the chair of the subcommittee, and Honorable, this is very clear that the various subcommittees have not set to elect their leadership. That is according to the minutes that the Speaker has. And both members on that day, they are unanswered. They said they will provide evidence. So right now, the onus is on Honorable Kaluma to provide to this House the minutes of that subcommittee, because we know the membership, which elected him and also elected Honorable Dismas Baraza. Dismas Baraza has proved to the House through the minutes that, yes, he's a member of the subcommittee. But what he disputed was that he is a vice chair to the chair, who is Honorable Kaluma. So Honorable Kaluma, the Speaker has just asked, where is the other minutes where the committee set and elected you the chair and him the vice chair? Minus that, then you and Honorable Waluke, you have an explanation to make to this House. It's as simple as that.
Honorable Madi, let's just, we'll get to.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also want to agree that this matter was hot. And by the way, the issue we are dealing with here is truthfulness. Because when you make allegation or you make a statement in the House, it should be a statement of fact. But Mr. Speaker, what you have read is actually minutes constituting the subcommittees. It doesn't mean that if during that meeting, the committees are not sat, that they didn't sit again. They could have sat again. And the way committees operate, Mr. Speaker, is that even if you form subcommittees, still there is the overseer. And the overseer here is the chairman. And today, Mr. Speaker, the chairman is in the House. Can chairman confirm to us that these subcommittees, which they formed to help the way subcommittees work, because we have had subcommittees, I doubt whether subcommittees take seriously minutes. Because really, these are just informal arrangements. Let us be also truthful and factual and have this matter to rest, because we are not going to supervise this committee here. If the committee fails, the only thing we do is to disband it, Mr. Speaker. That is what this House can do, but this committee has not failed so far. We just want to hear from the chair. Now you see, someone is speaking to me here as if he doesn't know that we can disband this committee. The committee can be disbanded. You know this. You know, the Honorable Wamunyini, I know you came to Parliament before me, but it appears you forget so many things. So just listen. We've disbanded committees in this House, Mr. Speaker, and we can still disband. And if you ever thought that once you are in that committee, you are there permanently, you better be careful. You may find yourself out of that committee anytime. So, Mr. Speaker, anyway, let me cut it short by asking, Mr. Speaker, let's get back to the track instead of digressing. Could we have, some of these MPs whose misbehavior make them stay away for 2 years instead of really behaving well to be in the House? Even if you come back but you are jobless for 2 years, that is punishment enough, and you better be careful. You may find yourself again
out for 2 years in 2022. But Mr. Speaker, could the chairman of the committee confirm to us if they have formed this committee, if these committees have since, subcommittees have since sat? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, honour members, you see, we had to get this information, and I think it's good that Honourable Didimas Barasa got it, but I have seen it in my office. I was going to stand it, but it is the same document that Honourable Barasa has tabled. It is very clear, and the reference is minutes of the 41st sitting of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on constitution of subcommittees. And the writer forwards this record. The only thing that he says is that during the sitting, the committee constituted subcommittees to bring expertise and experience, as I've read out. The sitting resolved that each subcommittee elects a chairperson and vice chairperson, and also develop its program of activities. The list of the established subcommittees is part and parcel of the minutes. This report further states, Honorable Didimas Barasa was appointed to serve in the subcommittee, Committee 1, which was tasked to deal with legislation, reports, questions and answers, statements, petitions, and also to undertake any other role as may be assigned by the main committee. The other members of the committee, Honorable Peter.
It's a good idea, Honorable Speaker, because my committee ends up to have a lot of issues to address. And I thought members, the times, a member comes to the committee before they come and shout in the House, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Well, I think, I don't think whether there's any Honorable Cheptumo, you appear to be burning with something.
Mr. Speaker, you know, Speaker, this is a very, very important committee, just like all the other committees, Mr. Speaker. And listening to Honorable Kaluma, who is a member also of my committee, and this Barasa, Mr. Speaker, there's only one question to be answered here. Was there a meeting of the subcommittee to elect Kaluma as the chair and Dismas as the vice chair?
No, the answer is no.
Mr. Speaker, if the answer to that question is yes, then what follows, Mr. Speaker, is a presentation of the minutes of that meeting. And if the answer is no, Mr. Speaker, if the answer is no, then it is therefore not in order for one of the members of that committee to allege that Dismas was indeed a vice chair. And Mr. Speaker, it is even clear to me now that actually, because when the subcommittee, Mr. Speaker, does the elections, they are supposed to report back to the main committee and say, yes, we have had our meeting, Kaluma is the chair, Dismas is the vice chair. Mr. Speaker, I know you are a man of wisdom. And I know you sympathize with us here. Even as looking at you, you just see where you are going. I know, Mr. Speaker, you are just waiting to make, there is a serious problem that, Mr. Speaker, there was no, in my view, and I may be wrong, Mr. Speaker, it's like there was no meeting to do the election for the chair and the vice chair of the subcommittee. And Mr. Speaker, I think because we need to spend our time in a useful manner, Mr. Speaker, and noting that this committee is very important, Mr. Speaker. The more we discuss this committee, Mr. Speaker, the more again we raise more doubts about their performance. Mr. Speaker, I want to plead that give your direction in this matter, because it's a house of record. It appears to me there was no elections.
Well, I think that's just, we can't spend all the time discussing. Honorable Angwenyi, you know, it's not done that way. But I'm sure, you know, the Honorable Angwenyi was in this chamber when the microphones were hanging from up there, so people are used to shouting. Proceed. Make your point then.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm glad you have come to the conclusion, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm glad you have come to the conclusion I drawn a long time ago, quite a number of minutes ago. Why are we spending time to talk about an unborn baby?
Yes.
And a baby who's legitimate, because that baby is not recognized in our standing orders. It's illegitimate. Yeah?
The Children's Act from the other house has to deal with that particular area of illegitimacy and the others. But I think, honourable members, let's just allow the committee, the Honourable Koinange, call a meeting. You say that indeed the minutes show that the meeting happened on 24th of September. Call another meeting, get a report from all the subcommittees so that you can set them moving. Let us not further debate on this. We'll just kill the subcommittees. And I would want to encourage other committees to actually form subcommittees. Because some of your committees, there are some committees which are actually inundated with a lot of work. That several members have been complaining that businesses referred to those committees is not moving. And I think rather than dwell so much on this, let's allow the Honorable Koinange, Honorable Didymus Barasa, you now, according to the record, you belong to that subcommittee. Now you can meet and you can ask to be provided with clerks. You are not a vice chair. And well, when you choose, the Honorable Kaluma said actually there was a proposal to even have you the chair. So, no, don't. No, that's not. Don't decide. Don't. No, Honorable Kaluma. Honourable members, you know, we have lived long enough in this country to. We've seen members of this house, I may not wish to name them, who arrogated themselves positions, even in political parties, and went ahead to issue serious statements, only for the statements to be disowned by the real officials. And then soon thereafter, they proceeded to resign from the positions that they arrogated and in their minds assumed. So I'm not saying that that's what the Honorable Peter Kaluma is doing. No. No, please, I want your subcommittees to work. I think that's more important. That's more substantive. Let the subcommittees work. The chair of the main committee will come and give a report on what is happening. Honorable Koinange, in the course of next week, why don't you give us a progress report, how these subcommittees are working? Yes, proceed. Let us proceed. Next order.
Order number 8, the Representation of Special Interest Groups Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 52 of 2019, second reading, question to be put.
Order members, order. Debate on this bill was concluded the week before we proceed on a short recess. What remained is for the question to be put, which I hereby do. That the Representation of Special Interest Groups Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 52 of 2019, be now read a second time. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend various laws to give further effect to Article 100 of the Constitution to promote the representation in parliament of women, persons with disabilities, youth, ethnic and other minorities, and marginalized communities, and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 9, the Public Participation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 69 of 2019, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to provide a general framework for effective public participation, to give effect to the constitutional principle of democracy and participation of the people, and Article 10, Sub-Article 2, Article 118, 196, 201A, and 232, 1D of the Constitution and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 10, the Public Petition to County Assemblies Procedures Bill, Senate Bill number 22 of 2018, second reading.
Only 3 members unspoken. Or 2. Honour members, debate on this bill commenced on October 17th. By the time of adjournment, the mover, the Honorable William Cheptumo, had spoken to it, and the seconder, the Honorable Jeremiah Kioni. Then question was proposed, and on the floor was the Honorable Wafula Wamunyinyi, who has a balance of 4 minutes. If you desire to make use of the 4 minutes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to continue my contribution on the Petition to County Assemblies Procedure Bill 2018. Mr. Speaker, as had been explained earlier, this bill seeks to provide for the procedure to be followed when filing petitions. It merely attempts to fill the gap that exists in our county assemblies in the manner in which public petitions are handled. Mr. Speaker, the bill also seeks to provide clear mechanism for ensuring that the body or content of a petition is clear. So, Mr. Speaker, I had said earlier I support this bill, but I also wanted to point out, Mr. Speaker, that the assemblies, as mandated by the Constitution, at their own legislative agenda, the assemblies, Mr. Speaker, also should go ahead and enact law which should help the people in the counties. And I'm particularly, Mr. Speaker, concerned with my county of Bungoma, where I strongly feel the Assembly has a responsibility to ensure that they undertake legislation on matters that affect the county. Some of the matters to do with the local interests, the cultural issues. We have people getting disturbed, harassed by the police when they have their local brew, the buza or kwete. Mr. Speaker, the County Assembly should put in place a legislation to ensure that it protects the people who perform their cultural activities and are using kwete or
are presented in the manner that we have prescribed in our standing orders, and the chair then refers those particular petitions to the various committees to be dealt with. County assemblies have been groping in dark, has been provided in the bill on how they can present their petitions. So I do urge this House, we pass this bill, a bill on their own procedure as regards the presentation of petitions to the assemblies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Bondo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I support this bill in spirit, but I have a problem or some reservations when it comes to the principle, in terms of what we are doing, particularly for county governments or for counties in general. Mr. Speaker, I'm convinced that county assemblies are a miniature replica of this National Assembly or these parliaments that we have. And when we go into a situation where it is us, the Senate or the National Assembly, prescribing in terms of what the county assemblies are supposed to be doing, I'm generally convinced that we are not doing the right thing, that we are over-legislating for county governments. To an extent that when we are even now coming up with doing processes or procedures in terms of how petitions are done, it is us again coming up in terms of how they are processes of raising revenue. Again, the parliament that is coming up with all manner of things for the county assemblies. I think there's something that is not right. And we really need to revisit this, Mr. Speaker. These county governments are distinct. They are distinct government. County assemblies are supposed to be doing these things on their own. Each county assembly needs to come up with their own ways of how to handle petitions. I don't know how to raise this later on so that we are properly guided, that we are actually doing things for county governments or county assemblies that we really ought not to do. Look at how these things are in the Constitution. County assemblies are supposed to legislate, they are supposed to be doing things on their own. They can be borrowing, they can be learning, and those are things that are allowed. But it is not this government, these assemblies of ours, the Senate or the National Assembly, that is supposed to be prescribing exactly what they are supposed to be doing. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this in spirit. But in terms of the principle, I'm still not very convinced that we are doing the right thing as a National Assembly, Mr. Speaker.
Well, the prayer said in the other house is slightly different from the one said here. They don't sit on any day in the mornings. They are at liberty to prescribe their own procedures as they find necessary. Well, I suppose Honorable Chanda, that's why you're having difficulties. Why then, if at the national level we cannot make the procedure of petitioning the other house similar to the procedure for petitioning ourselves similar, why then do we want to prescribe a particular procedure? It may well be that at the village level they may want as moves from one village to the other. They can decide how they want petitions. Maybe if there are not too many, just like you have in the Eye of Man where they sit every August after a church, they go and now say these are the laws we have passed and the word, and after some prayer, then they are all now adopted to become the laws of the land. Honorable Shamala.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I do want to associate my myself with the sentiments of the honorable member. I'm concerned that actually this bill may restrict the rights of a person who may want to petition the county assemblies when you have it so formalized. And in as much as I stand to support it, I think that perhaps, yes, I can understand that they may want to have a format at village level for people to be able to have like what one calls a precedent and to be able to fill it in. But as to why it can't be in a standing order and it has to be in a bill is really my concern. I think that with all due respect to the Senate, perhaps they could concentrate on weightier issues than the prescription of
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand under Standing Order number 95. And going by the mood of the House, and Mr. Speaker, even going by the last sentiment, Mr. Speaker, would I be in order to call on the mover to reply so that we can go on I can see we have other business as well in the House. And the calendar, even if you look at the course of the week, the calendar of the House is very weighty. And this is almost procedural. It's not that weighty, Mr. Speaker. And most people are supportive of it with maybe some minor amendments. So would I be in order to call on the mover to reply?
Well, Honorable Akoth Odhiambo, Mili, as you've not rose in a place and claimed to move that the mover be called upon to reply, understanding order number 95. The only way for me to determine that is to put it to the House. So I put the question, which is that the mover be called upon to reply. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of contrary opinion say no? Unfortunately, the ayes have it. The Honorable Wanyonyi, the ayes have it. Mover. Chairperson, Justice and Legal Affairs. Or you are starting in for him, Honorable Shirley?
Yes, you are.
Very well, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on behalf of the Chair of the Justice and Legal Affairs, I want to thank members who have contributed to this bill and quickly say, just like Honorable Millie said, that most of this bill was discussed and debated in the Senate. And therefore, whatever we are doing here is more or less procedural. And I want to agree with the members who have actually supported this. The few other amendments that they have proposed, we'll look at them when it comes to third reading. Honorable Speaker, on behalf of the Chair of Justice and Legal Affairs, I wish to reply.
Very well. For the reason that the House does not have quorum, I do not put the question for second reading. So move to the next order. That will happen another day. Next order.
Order number 11, the County Government's Revenue Raising Process Bill, National Assembly Bill number 24 of 2018, second reading.
Leader of Majority. Taken out of the order paper. The leader of the majority party is the move of the bill, and therefore it's private in order to request for it to be stood down. Next order.
Order number 12, motion, annulment of the retirement benefits, occupational retirement benefits schemes, amendment, regulation 2019, and insurance, motor vehicle third-party risks, certificate of insurance amendment rules 2019.
Honorable Boshele is not here. She's not here. Honorable Leader Majority.
Speaker, the chair of delegated legislation asked me through the House Business Committee that she's committed and she will really want to be slotted tomorrow afternoon so that she can deal with the two motions, both.
Very well. Stood down to tomorrow afternoon. Next order.
Order number 13, motion, ratification of the agreement between the Government of the Republic of Kenya and the Government of the Republic of South Africa on defense cooperation.
Chairperson, Defense and Foreign Relations. Honorable Kato. His deputy being Tongi, also not present. Leader Majority.
Speaker, I have no brief from that committee, but I'm not seeing anybody. But I'm sure Honorable Kato is one of the active chairs. He must be committed somewhere. So in the House Business Committee tonight, we will reschedule it to maybe tomorrow. But I'll look for him.
But also similarly stood down. Next order.
Order number 14.
Entity. Mr. Speaker, this is a bill that was that is part of the implementation of the Constitution 2010. We passed the Access to Information Act 2016, which ought to implement Article 35 of the Constitution on the access to information. So once we pass that law, access to information in 2016, we ought to follow it up with the data protection piece of legislation, but I'm sure individual members of parliament did not raise that legislation proposal, and government took long. So, but now we have it, and I think we must deal with it. So, Mr. Speaker, any other right is one of the ones that are guaranteed and protected by the Constitution. However, Mr. Speaker, in this country, I could say without any fear of contradiction that this is the most abused right by rogue persons, personal data and information, either on their financial status, on their health status, and on other sensitive personal data. So, Mr. Speaker, for you to protect, for us to protect the personal, financial, and the health of how lucky you are that you have won huge sums of money and they could certainly change your life. You wonder how these people get access.
Privacy of Kenyans. As Kenya does not currently have a specific data protection law. Honorable Speaker, 2016, if you remember in the 11th Parliament, Honorable Priscilla Nyokavi came up with the Access to Information Bill, and we passed it, and it was assented to in 2016. Basically, what we should have done first is to come first with this law. Because we can ask for information currently, but we are not guaranteed of the protection of that data. We are not guaranteed of security of the information that is held by all these entities. Even the Huduma number that we did early this year. Basically, there is no protection. We don't even know what has happened. It's now quiet. So we hope with this law now, government should move with speed and issue Kenyans with the Huduma numbers. I believe they are waiting for this law so that they can issue us with, for leaders. When you speak on your phone, we believe there are people who listen, because sometimes when you talk to somebody on the other side, you believe there is something that's going on. So with this law, as we pass this law, basically those who are infringing on our rights to listen to our conversations, even if they listen, they cannot use it against you in a court of law because it will be illegal. They'll have gotten this information illegally. It will also regulate the collection, retrieval, processing, storing, use, and disclosure of personal data. Honorable Speaker, I remember 2012, 2013, when we were going around the country looking for votes before we settled on particular political parties. There are people who belong to, I belong to that time, URB, United Protecting Personal Data. It is possible to ensure that person's rights and freedoms are not violated. Honorable Speaker, I want to give just some few highlights about the bill. Honorable Duale has already done it. Basically, I just want to peruse and go through it quickly. But 4 of the bill, Honorable Speaker, highlights the principles for processing of personal data that every data controller is found to ensure that the data is handled in a way that is lawful. The data should be processed in a transparent and lawful manner, be accurate and up to date, and be collected for a specific reason. So that if you collect the data basically for census, as soon as that particular action is complete, then within a short period of time, you should delete. If it is for particular areas, say there are floods, you want to assist people, you want to give them food. As soon as the season is over, you are supposed to delete the data instead of holding them unnecessarily for too long. A data
idea, but that's what happened, and I'm sure most of the members here, maybe 3 or 4 further members, have been a victim of this information. Illegal, somebody gets you illegally, and he states so clearly that you have no reason to suspect. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether that's true, the talk of a committee, whatever you, but how? I don't have a relative or a friend who is in the committee prisons. But that is happening, is a reality, and we must actually cut against that. The other thing is that the other day, Mr. Speaker, and I'm sure you do the same, and most of the members here, almost 100% of, we had this so-called Uduma. And people came to my house on this Uduma, and I was there with my family members and those who are not there, and I voluntarily gave all the information to the so-called Uduma number. To date, I don't know anybody who has been given that number. And I think I'm asking the government to be able to tell us what happened in that exercise. Because we lost money in that exercise, everybody else, and we know they went to everybody. There's nobody in this house. You can even ask by show of hands. We have all registered Huduma numbers. And none of us has actually been given a Huduma number. Yeah, I don't know what happened. So that's some of the things that the government has wasted money, because we thought there was to be something that can be of use. But I don't know, Mr. Speaker, what happened. So the problems are on, and it's good this bill has come the right time for us to be able to know and at least be a bit a step ahead of what's happened in the third world. One thing is that, personal that I think that the fact that the Minister of ICT is there, and that you're going to form a commission in charge of this, is, I think, something that we all have to support, because that may be able to make us be above others in the third world. I don't know whether it's happening in the other regions I don't want to mention, but I think it's something that has to be done, and I think if we can have a commission in charge of that, I also want to. But at the same time, let's also set stiff penalty for whoever accesses your information. Because just setting up that commission and the Minister of IT is there is not enough. Let's have punishment that's actually known, so that if you are accessing the information from somebody, be punished by law, so that you can be able to deter people who actually get information for some reasons. And of course, let it be known to the public. I do not want us to just do this and finish up here, pass this bill here, and leave it at. Let the public know that now accessing information for you, Speaker, is illegal. So that everybody else, some boys are just out there, I'm not complaining, but some people, the youth, particularly the youth, not my age, not your age, they just sit nothing but just sit around, be able to play around with the figures, and they can tell you anything. So let it be known that actually it's punishable to get an information for somebody. And of course, the other thing is it's a bit sensitive, but to transfer, and I think that's what you talked about, the chairman of this committee, that sometimes you go to a neighboring country, you should be able to get this information, you get information, that should be legalized. It should be legalized, so that if I'm in the United States of America, and there's some information coming, it should be through the legal means, which you and I know, but not just calling and giving the information. That again is a problem. I've had cases, particularly the land issue in this country, and that is a very motive issue of land. And you find somebody has all the details about your land, all the details. You know, the boundaries, the acreage, and what have you. If your father died or your grandfather died, he has all the...
Honorable Speaker, and I can tell you that if there will be a third world war, and God forbid that it will not be there, it will be a digital war. It will be a war that information, personal data are used to finish communities, tribes, and countries, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, because we have just heard recently that Russia was able to infiltrate into the election of US. If it is true or not true, then the information was there, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, with such infiltration of data, and at the moment, we are assured, and we are sure as members of this House, that we have given out all our data to Huduma number. Everybody in this House and in the whole country, because of threats from the government, we are been able to give anything, every information, every question they ask, we had answered genuinely. They have our data. What they are doing with our data at the moment, Honorable Speaker, we don't know. But what we know, it is we have already given out. And that is why this bill is very important. It has come at the right time. That as much as we may not know what the government is doing with the data, we will be assured that it will be protected and that anybody who may divulge such information unlawfully, there will be penalties and they will be, Honorable Speaker, that data will be protected wherever it is, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is very important for us to be able to protect our citizens. We have heard of people who are in committee accessing all your information. Honorable who have just spoken before me had confirmed that somebody called him and he had all his 3 names, all other information that he may not have told us because of sometimes some of this information are secret, Honorable Speaker, and I knew he may not divulge everything. Honorable Speaker, but you can imagine that somebody that you don't know have all your details. If they have the details of our account names, our account numbers, our branch, bank branch, and other information, including even your PIN, Honorable Speaker, that is where we get now scam, Honorable Speaker, where money are transferred to accounts and you just find yourself a poor person, a beggar, all of a sudden, yet you work very hard to earn, Honorable Speaker. We have had criminals from other countries, I don't want to mention, but there are countries that are known to be very good in cyber crimes, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, and that is why we need to protect data of our citizens, Honorable Speaker. Individual from countries, thank you very much, Honorable Mheshimiwa. Honorable Speaker, this data protection bill is very important, Honorable Speaker, and we should pass it as soon as possible to be able to protect ourselves. Honorable Speaker, even individuals in this country are very malicious, Honorable Speaker. There was a time we heard of somebody called Waziri Chacha, Honorable Speaker, molesting our colleagues, female colleagues, from this house, 13 of them, Honorable Speaker, through cybercrime, through personal data that I don't know where he collected, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, even leaders, Honorable Speaker. You have heard, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Sonko, the governor of Nairobi, recording almost everybody on phone, Honorable Speaker, and threatening and exposing even those that we call secret discussions, Honorable Speaker. Secret, Honorable Speaker, affairs, Honorable Speaker. We have had him even exposing members of this house, fellow governors, Honorable Speaker. If this cyber protection bill was in force, Songo will be now serving a jail term, Honorable Speaker. But because we were not able to protect personal data, Honorable Speaker, he's still very free. And he's still recording other people, Honorable Speaker. We don't know who else will be recorded. Nowadays, Honorable Speaker, I don't call him. And if he call me, I put his phone off because, Honorable Speaker, I don't know what I will say. And you know, in the process, you may say other things. Honorable Speaker, as I complete, because I do support 100%, allow me, Honorable Speaker, to thank you, Honorable Speaker, for Thursday's committee, parliamentary forum of committees, Honorable Speaker. It's very important. We will all participate, Honorable Speaker, and especially the launch of Kiswahili standing orders. I have today learned that standing orders is not in Kiswahili translated literally to mean amri ya kusimama. It have another very different meaning, Honorable Speaker. We'll
reading. Another issue that concerned me was when there is a breach or leak of data and the time it would take to inform the subject matter. And the words used were within a reasonable time. I think that they should be definite timelines, because the subject matter is actually the owner of this personal data. And whereas there were timelines for the data processors and data, there's a name for them, but the other people, there are no timelines in informing the subject matter whose data, where there has been a serious breach. So if there's been a serious breach of my account, it may have been hacked, I think it is important that I be able to be informed, or by e-citizen or whoever it is that is collecting this data, within a timeline and as soon as possible. And it is my considered opinion that 72 hours would not be pushing it and would be reasonable. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I wish to say that I support this bill and hope that as long as it's passed with the necessary amendments at the committee stage, then I do support.
Honorable Mwangi-Mburu, member for Larry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the onset, I stand up to support the bill because I'm a member of this committee and I have been there when we were deliberating about every part of appointing him and the process of removing him and the powers that are accorded to him, and also the functions of his office. So I'm really in support of this bill because they have taken really good care about that part. On the other part I'm looking at is now we have the people we are calling the data processors and data controllers, the people who will be collecting the data. At what point, if you want to collect, like the way we did Huduma number, were they registered by the data commissioner? You want to go and collect some information, some personal data for people living in Lodo or living in Lari, for what purpose? Do you have a license to go and collect that data? What benchmarks are you giving to the data commissioner so that you can be allowed to go and collect that data? So I'm also in support of that part, the part of data processors and data, and I'm happy that the data commissioner will come up with regulations that will be able to guide the data controllers and the data processors so that they are living within a framework where they are getting their licensing in an easier way, but also in a controlled.
Protection is a very important aspect because technologically the group is now much advanced, Mr. Speaker. I'm quite confident that upon assent of this particular bill into law, it will substantially address various issues, including what is being pronounced regularly by the President of the United States of America, Honorable Trump, who each and every other time says there is what we call fake news. And Kenya is not an exception of also fake news. Honorable Speaker, the Constitution of Kenya, particularly Article 31 of the Constitution of Kenya, provides for a right of privacy, which includes not to have the information relating to a particular or to a person's family or private affairs unnecessarily being revealed. Part D of that same article says the right of privacy of an individual and communication should not be infringed. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that this particular bill will definitely be able to address those issues which are provided for in the Constitution. They are at the countries across the globe. India has an act of that purpose. Zambia, as we speak today, they have a bill which is in Parliament. Ecuador has the same bill. The Barbados, they have the bill. So it's high time